2025 was a huge year for me. Besides being a first time mom, well, I gave birth in August 2004, but in my mind, 2005 is going to be the year where I transformed the most, where I learned about motherhood the most, and where I struggled as well. And besides becoming a mother, I also started my vintage business and I failed. I want to talk about that failure today with you because I think that there is not enough talk online when it comes to starting a business and then failing. Everyone is a business coach nowadays and everyone tells you how you can get rich super fast, but there is a lot of trial and error as well. Successful people that you see, they maybe had 5 or 10 ideas before they actually became successful or before they started making money. There was a lot of years where they worked their ass off for free. For me personally, I think that my path in life is always hard. When I started modeling, it was everything but easy, and it took me like 7 years to start making money. So I'm definitely not the one who is expecting quick success. But this time it was different because already in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if this thing is really worth fighting for. Because even if everything goes well, I will not be making as much money as I should for this amount of work. I'm going to go into detail and I will tell you how it started, how it was going, and how I decided to finish it because I think it's a really valuable lesson and I think it's also just nice to share failures. Like, it would be nice if we were all more vulnerable online and talked about things that we tried doing but we didn't succeed because that doesn't make you less smart or less capable. It actually makes you brave. It makes you someone who was willing to try and take a risk, but then decided that's not the thing that you should really pursue. So let's go back to January. Actually, it was December 2004. I was looking for a vintage jacket that I couldn't find anywhere. I searched all of the vintage shops I could think of, and I searched a lot of online reseller platforms, and I just couldn't find the jacket. Mind you, I live in Belgrade, but I'm from Croatia, so I don't really shop on American or UK websites. I shop locally much more often. And that's where I saw the gap in the market. I was like, okay, I'm not the only one who wants to shop vintage, and I'm sure that there would be a lot of people who would appreciate a nice vintage shop. I was thinking about something more upcycled rather than just like collecting trash and then selling trash because a lot of vintage shops are dirty, they smell. I wanted to give something, I wouldn't say luxurious, but something more next level. At the time, my daughter was like almost 6 months old when I decided to start the whole project. And it was pretty fast, okay? I didn't have a business plan. I wasn't thinking about how much the clothes is going to cost me, for how much money I can sell it. It was more of impulsive decision. Okay, I have to do this and I'm doing this right now and I will make it work along the way. I bought a batch of vintage clothing that I picked online on a video call. I started my company. I made everything legal, all of the paperwork. I hired an accountant because I wanted everything to run smoothly. I had my logo done. I was so excited to start this small business while my daughter was still tiny and I was with her at home. And then, as soon as I made everything official, that's when all of the problems started to arise. First of all, it's really hard to import secondhand goods because you often need a lot of paperwork that proves that your clothing has gone through process of disinfection, and it was really hard to obtain those papers. When it comes to shipping and customs, it's really hard because obviously I had to find clothing in Europe that I would then import to Serbia, and import process is not smooth at all. Then I had a couple of issues with the accountant because when you are starting a business, they expect you to pay all of your bills and to pay all of the taxes as much as the next big company next to you. And that's a lot of money for somebody who is just starting. And then what happened is I had all these clothes and I was okay, I'm not going to sell trash. As I said in the beginning, I want to make these clothes look really nice. I'm gonna take them all to dry cleaning. I'm gonna take it to the tailor because I want everything to look perfect, and I want to imagine myself entering a vintage store where everything looks brand new and it smells nice. And I just wasn't aware of how much work that would take. I wasn't ready to delegate my tasks to anyone. I really wanted to do everything by myself. And all of that is really hard when you have a very small baby. And you also want to be a present mom, because the last thing I wanted was to have someone else take care of my baby while I'm working, especially when she's that little. So I have to say that all of this in the beginning, all the drama and all the hardships were just a mix of bad timing because I was still postpartum. Well, I don't know what postpartum means. Is it just the first month or two? But anyway, my baby was 7 or 8 months old when I was already in the beginnings and, taking care of the clothes and talking to people and promoting. It was good timing also, on the other hand, because I could see that people were really into vintage. Suddenly everybody wanted to buy vintage things because they realized that newly made clothes are just not the same quality as something that has been produced 20 years ago. Vintage clothes do stand the test of time, but anything that you bought like in the last 5 years, it's a bit off. Then we go to the financial aspect of everything. Obviously, I'm not going to give you exact numbers because it varies from product to product, but I'm going to give you just an example, something that I make up right now as we speak, just so you can understand when I give you the numbers. If I buy a jacket for 20 euros, and if I take it to the tailor because the lining has to be replaced, that's going to be another 15 or 20 euros. So we are at 35 or 40. Then I take it to dry cleaning. Dry cleaning for a blazer is 10 euros, for a leather jacket is 30 or 40. And then obviously with all of my work being done in the background, and obviously me needing to make some extra money, have like a margin on what I'm selling, the jacket would have to cost 100 euros. And nobody is going to pay 100 euros for a vintage jacket unless it's an Armani suit. Let's be honest. That's when I realized that my philosophy around selling things that are going to smell nice and look new, but they are actually vintage, is not really wise. Because we all know that when you buy secondhand, you expect it to be cheaper. And with Massimo Dutti, cause all those like high streets, but kind of quality brands selling you blazers for the same amount of money, everybody is going to choose new over vintage. No matter how much time I spend explaining that vintage is better, or that wool was better or whatever, people in their minds still prefer to buy new. To be honest, I'm not sure if I would pay 100 euros for something vintage just because it smelled nice. That's when I started to really doubt my ideas, and I was like, you know what? Anyway, I really love vintage bags and I should be selling bags instead. But that's when we, face problems of like, the bags that I buy, how do I know for sure that they are, authentic? I don't want to be the one who gets cheated on and buys like a fake bag and then sells it to someone else, because that can definitely ruin the whole reputation of your business right off the bat. So that's something that I definitely didn't want to risk with. And like I could go on and on, but to be honest, I think the biggest reason why I decided to quit is just because I didn't feel it anymore. The timing was definitely off. I just wanted to spend time with my daughter. I also knew very deep inside that if I want to make something work, I will find a way. But instead, I was finding excuses. And that's where I knew that this is not for me. This is not something that I truly want. And I decided to put an end to it. And I really wanted to end it this year already in September or October because I wanted to have like a clean slate for New Year's. I didn't want to enter 2026 with, something from the past, something that is weighing me down, or something that is reminding me of my failure. Even though I wouldn't say it's a failure, because I tried and I didn't lose a lot of money, I didn't lose a lot of time, it wasn't that bad. I think I could call it a failure if I had been doing it for 5 years, investing my own money over and over and over again, and then not making anything. I think that would be worse. This way, I still ended it on good terms. um, I sold quite a lot of things, even though I didn't make any profit. And I had my lesson, everything is fine. But I'm sure that if I start another business next year or anytime in the future, and I tell you about it, and I tell you about how successful I am, without knowing this story, you'd probably think that it happened overnight. Well, it didn't. I have been a model since I'm 16. I have been working all my life. I had a lot of ups and downs, and I'm going to still have a lot of ups and downs. That happens when you want to build something meaningful. I think I'm going to cut this here because I told you everything that I think you should know, or what could be a lesson for you. There is no need to go on and on and on. Even personally, for me, that's something that I have already, like, ended and left in the past. It's even like hard for me to continue talking about it because I feel like it drains my energy, to be honest. So I'm going to cut this video here. Follow my other channels for more, like, fashion, styling, motherhood, etc. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.